Blessed day, guys, and peace be upon you this morning. So in this video, we're going to learn how to configure IPv6 plus SVI inter-VLAN routing. Okay, so SVI is inter-VLAN routing using multi-layer switch. So as you can remember, in the previous video, we learned how to configure IPv6 plus router on a stick inter-VLAN routing. So let's do for SVI or switch virtual interface using multi-layer switch. Okay, all right, so I'll open our Google spreadsheet. I'll let you know that today we're at number 17 part 2. Okay, so without any further ado, I'll open our notepad to learn the steps that we're going to follow to achieve the objectives. All right, so draw the necessary topology, decorate and comment. All right, so as you can see on this topology, I have just one multi-layer switch, which is 3650 24 port switch, and I have 3 departments, HR, finance and IT. So the first 2 ports, gig 01, gig 101 and gig 102 belongs to HR VLAN 10. Gig 103 and gig 104 belongs to finance VLAN 20. And finally, gig 106 and gig 105 belongs to IT VLAN 30, right? All right, so basically what we're going to do is to configure this multi-layer switch for inter-VLAN routing, and we're going to use IPv6 so that the computers in this network can communicate via IPv6 rather than IPv4, right? All right, so when I go back to our notepad, create VLANs, name them and assign to ports, right? So as I've explained, these ports belong to their unique VLAN IDs. Okay, all right, so we click on this multi-layer switch, and the first thing we do, remember this is a 3650 24 port switch, so it doesn't have power supply. Just make sure you drag the supply and put it there. Wait for around 10 seconds and we click on the CLI so that we can start configuring. As you can see, it's still booting. All right, so we can start configuring VLANs and assign them to ports. Okay, all right, so just say no, I enable config T. So for interface, gig 101 and gig 102 VLAN 10, gig 103 and 4 VLAN 20, 5 and 6 VLAN 30. Do it very fast at time. The first thing, we create VLANs. VLAN 10 we name as HR. So let's assign the VLANs to ports. So as we said, interface range gig 1/0/1 to 2. Okay, switch port mode access. Okay, then switch port access VLAN 10. Okay, exit. Then gig 101, gig 103 to 4 VLAN 20, 3 to 4, and do right. So guys, we're done with creating, naming and assigning VLANs. So the next step is to configure IPv6 addresses to the SVIs and include both link local and GUA, global unicast address. So remember, inter-VLAN routing using multi-layer switch is always been creating SVIs or switch virtual interface. So let's create switch virtual interface. So how do we create switch virtual interfaces? You create based on the VLANs that we created. Remember, we created VLAN 10. So SVI for VLAN 10 will be interface VLAN 10. Okay, so this is SVI that represents VLAN 10. So let's assign IPv6 address on this interface. So we just say IPv6 add to be address to be the first one. Let's assign link local, which is fe 80:1. Then we specify that this is link local address. Now let's assign GUA. So IPv6 address 202.1 colon ABCD colon A8 double colon 1/64. This is a network. To the first IP address, let's take that one, okay, and hit enter. All right, then we just say exit. Then now let's create another SVI for VLAN 20. So we just say interface VLAN 20, okay, and we assign it link local address first. The link local address here is FAIR80 colon double colon 2. Sorry, not that one. FAIR80 double colon 2. Okay. Then the global unique address, you can see 201 colon ABCD colon B8 double colon /64. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it was B8, and let's take the first one, double colon 1, okay, and hit enter, exit. And finally, let's create the SVI for VLAN 30. The link local address will be FAIR80 double colon 3, okay. Then the GUA will be 201 ABCD colon C8. So we just send this to C8, exit, and do that. Guys, we've done everything that is required on this multi-layer switch. Okay, so what we need to do is to configure IPv6 on the computers on the LAN. So for example, I'll just copy this address, I'll just copy this network address, I'll copy the network address and go to each PC on HR department and configure IPv6 address. So we just go here, I demonstrate with one, and I do it very fast on the other step time. So double colon, let it take .5, okay. Then here is /64, you remember. Then the default gateway, you remember, it was for the IPv6 address of SVI that we created. It was that one, double colon 1, you remember very well. So I do the same for this one to save time. All right, so I've done for this department. Let's do for this department. What I do, I just copy this IPv6 address, come to this PC, and do it very fast, save time. I paste here and let this one take .5. So the other one take colon 6, and that there is /64. Then default gateway, you can remember, it was 21 ABCD colon B8 double colon 1, okay. All right, so I do for this one to save time and this one to save time also, right? All right, so I've done IPv6 configuration on all the computers. So what I'm going to do is to test communication outside the LAN. So for example, I'll just copy a IPv6 address of this computer, okay, which is C8, that one. Then I come to this computer, any of these computers, and try to ping, and I just write ping that one. Oops, I can see we are getting error. So okay, I've remembered what we didn't do. We didn't enable IPv6 global routing on this device. That's very important. It's always the first step. Always make sure you enable IPv6 global forwarding or routing on the device first. So sorry, I just do it very fast. So if I can just say it's just a simple command, IPv6 unicast routing, do. Good. Then we go back to the same device and try to ping again. So you see, we just made a simple mistake that we just corrected because we didn't enable IPv6 global forwarding or routing, okay, on the device. So let's take another IPv6 address here, which is DB8 or DB6 now. So let's try to ping. Here was B8 there was C8. Now let's ping B8. Okay, you can see all are successful. So just make sure you avoid that simple mistake. What about A8? Was it A8 or 1? Yes, A8. You can see everything is successful. I pinged how many networks? 3 networks. B8, A8, and finally C8 from PC7, which is in VLAN 10. So basically, guys, I believe this video has really helped you know how to configure IPv6 plus in the VLAN routing using SVI method. So I've just marked that section as done. When we meet next, let's start routing protocols for IPv6, right? Before we move to VLAN and VoIP, and finally to the firewall concepts. Thank you so much, guys. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video, share with friends, and drop a comment below. I appreciate. Bye.